Manx Radio Podcasts, powered by Shaw.
Well, welcome to another Countryside podcast here on Manx Radio with Kiri Kermode and Simon Clark. Well, two fairly different topics. I'll be talking to Dr. Fiona Gell, who's the Senior Biodiversity Officer, well, the marine side of DEFRA, and also Dr. Peter Duncan from the Fisheries. He's the project officer there. They're going to be talking about a consultation that's been released by DEFRA to get the public's views on marine zoning around the coastal waters of the Isle of Man. And so much goes on that you don't really know about around the waters on the island, isn't there?
There is. There's so much wildlife and, you know, the seals, the basking sharks. It's all incorporated in it and a lot to look after, really.
Yeah. Can you see the sea from your house?
Oh, yes. I do love the sea. You do miss it when you're away and, you know, spend a fortnight inland or whatever. You crave the sea again.
Yeah, but it's nice that you'll hear in the interviews that they're trying to get the public's view on it before they actually do anything. And I know in the past they've been keen to get the nature marine reserves, you know, in the coastal waters around there, which got the backing of a lot of the fishing side of things as well. You know, they want something for, you know, their sons and families that are involved in it for the future.
That's right,
you know, which is something to look
isn't it?
forward to. And of course you've got the people who do the crabs and the lobsters close in. You've got the fishermen who go out in boats and fish off the piers. The people who, like you mentioned, that go out just to view the basking sharks and the dolphin watchers and the whale watchers and everything like that. Jet skis, I suppose, they're all involved in it.
Have you ever been out on the whale watching boat?
I haven't been out on the whale watching boat, no. But I do like to get down, you know, when you see the seals, I know the fishermen don't particularly like them, but when you see the seals messing about and bobbing, you get them off Derby Head a lot as well, bobbing their head off the water. They seem to know that you're walking along the beach and they're sort of popping their head up, hello there. You know,
Very friendly creatures, but you don't get too close to them, they reckon.
No, we reckon they'd be quite nasty, but I suppose that's their environment and they're there to protect it, and that's their life, isn't it?
This is it.
Yeah, do you go out, do any fishing or anything yourself?
No, I've actually never caught a fish in my life. I've tried, but I've never been successful. Must be the most hopeless person in the Isle of Man, I reckon.
Don't take that sort of attitude. There's probably many more. But Kaylee Cool, you caught up with her because she's been on a bit of an exciting trip, hasn't she?
Yeah, she went off out to New Zealand after finishing her degree at Harper Adams University to experience dairy farming on a larger scale, and I think she certainly had her eyes opened. Massive herds of cows, 1,300 plus at one farm. You know, you don't find them on the Isle of Man, do you?
No, your hands would be sore if you didn't have a machine. All right, here's this week's Countryside for you.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, people with an interest in the Isle of Man coastal waters have been asked for their views over proposed marine zoning. To find out more about the proposals, I spoke to Dr. Fiona Gell, the Senior Biodiversity Officer for DEFRA, but firstly to Dr. Peter Duncan, the Fisheries Project Officer.
Yeah, the consultation, which has just been launched, is an opportunity for everyone who uses the marine environment to have a say in whether or not they think a zoning plan for the area between 0 and 3 miles out is a good idea and how that should look. Basically what we're proposing is that different areas are used for different purposes. It doesn't mean that there will be exclusions of all types in every area, but we're trying to enable the sustainable development of all different activities, whether it's commercial fishing, recreational activity, recreational fishing, conservation, or even some new industries that may well be coming along, and giving all of them an opportunity to develop and make the most of the resources that we have in the area.
Do the fishing people always take the sort of mode that you pick on them and closing them down more and more, or is it really trying to help them in future years is the main aim?
I think the answer to that is yes, and the answer to the first question is certainly there's always a little bit of fear when proposed changes come in, and certainly the reduction in people's opportunity to continue their livelihood is important, which is partly why we're consulting on it. But I also think there's been a change over the last few years. We've seen the benefits that the closed area programme that we have has provided to the fishing industry. This is not saying that no fishing will be allowed. It's really about enabling us to manage the fisheries more appropriately in different places and for the long-term benefit. So it is about long-term planning. It is about sustainability and giving the fishing industry a future around the island.
You mentioned about the close to shore, the recreational side of it. Will that hopefully encourage people coming over, that there'll be a lot more fish close to the shore for the little boats or people off the piers and beaches?
Certainly, I think so. If we look at some of the strategies that the government have launched recently, whether it's the Food Matters strategy or the biodiversity strategy or recently the sea fisheries strategy, we're looking to increase the value of whether it's food or tourism or ecotourism. So I think things like recreational fishing, if we can provide areas which allow habitat to recover, to grow up, for juvenile fish to be present there, then yes, I think recreational fishing is something that could become a real opportunity for the island in terms of tourism. But good quality marine environment is good for recreational divers. It's good for the wildlife that come to our shores, and so ecotourism, people that take wildlife tours, whether it's basking sharks or seabirds or seals or dolphins and whales, etc. I think a good quality marine environment benefits everyone.
When we talk about from 3 miles or 0 to 3 miles, I mean, the fishermen, some people say, well, they've got the whole, is it up to 12 miles to fish in? Why would they need to be so close to the land?
It really depends on where the fish resources, where the fish stocks are distributed. It's certainly true that there are scallops, queenies, lobsters, crabs, etc., which come all the way very close into shore. But different species live in different places, so a lot of the scallops and queen scallops are a little bit further offshore, whereas the habitats that lobsters prefer tend to be closer inshore. So again, one of the options in the zoning plan is to perhaps give a little bit more separation between the fishermen who fish for crab and lobster and those guys who fish for scallops and queens, and that may be beneficial to both types of industry.
The great thing is that you're actually asking people who are involved in it or may want to be involved in it in the future with maybe some plans closer to the shores, and this is the perfect opportunity for them to have a look at what you're proposing and actually fill in some information that might be useful to yourselves.
Absolutely. I think we would very much encourage everyone who uses the marine environment or even plans to. We're open for business, if you like. We'd like to see diversification of different activities and new industries or new activities coming in. But I think it's really important to make the point again that a high quality marine environment, and that means conservation of a range of habitats and a range of different species, really benefits everyone. So if we can get that right, then the opportunities for sustainable development of commercial activities or recreational activities is there for the future. It is about planning for the future.
Probably a lot of the fishermen, it's been sort of bred in there from families and handed down from generations. Is that part of it that is encouraging to you, hearing them sort of, well, let's have a look at it, because I've got sons who have got sons or daughters who may want to be in the fishing industry in 10 or 20 years' time?
For sure. I think it's critical that we get that sort of dialogue. The Isle of Man is fortunate from a fisheries management point of view, from a science point of view, and from a fishing industry point of view, that we work actually pretty closely together, and so we can have these dialogues, and the planning process that's gone into the fisheries strategy and this proposal as well. As I said before, it really is about enabling people to plan better for the future and to have an industry based on the Isle of Man into the future, but that requires a bit of strategic planning.
Turning to Fiona Gell, the Senior Biodiversity Officer for DEFRA. You've been involved in this for many years and quite successfully so far with some protected areas, haven't you?
Yeah, we started a process in 2008 to identify the Isle of Man's first marine nature reserve, and that resulted in the designation of Ramsey Marine Nature Reserve in 2011, and that's a zoned approach which we've found has worked well. And through the process of of consulting people on the first marine nature reserve, we got a lot of input from the whole of the population through various means, through workshops and surveys and so on, about what they would like to see more widely in the Manx marine environment. So we've been gathering that kind of information for a long time, and that's all fed into this developing this proposal.
One of the things that encouraged me when you started this, and I was talking to you back then, was the sort of quite a bit of support you got from, because it was up the Ramsey area, and quite a lot of support you got from the actual fishing boats that were based in Ramsey.
Yes, and that was something that was so special about Ramsey Marine Nature Reserve, that the decision to have the Isle of Man's first Marine Nature Reserve in Ramsey very much came from the fishing industry coming forward and saying that that was the site that would work well for them. And then it also was a site that worked really well from the point of view of conservation, because it protected the special horse mussel reefs and the eelgrass beds and the merle beds and other important habitats like that. So it was a great outcome with the fishing industry coming forward and saying this is a good place for us and will work for us in terms of helping to make our fishery more sustainable. And it did what we needed to do from conservation as well. So we hope that these proposals in the consultation also build on those concepts.
Now, Peter said earlier about it wasn't just the fishing that was involved, and you're probably more in touch with that side of it, the preservation of making sure there's something there to keep the basking sharks and the dolphins and whales in our waters.
Yeah, I mean, between the shore and the 3 mile limit around the Isle of Man, we've got an amazing variety of marine life. We've got the stunning, dramatic cliffs full of marine life around the Calf of Man, and then we've got these unusual features like the horse mussel beds and the merle beds and so on. And they all sustain some of the marine life that we're more familiar with, that we see more often, like the dolphins and the Rousseau's dolphins, whales and so on that go past it. It's really important that we've got those healthy seabed habitats to maintain the whole ecosystem. So by being able to give them more protection, we're potentially allowing them to regenerate and become more diverse and more interesting for divers and better to support angling and other recreational uses and so on. And it's really important to conserve them in their own right as well, because these habitats, things like the merle beds can have up to 600 species of animals associated with them. They're like the equivalent of our coral reefs, and we have just got such a great variety within a very small area of our territorial sea that we've got the opportunity to look after better and to safeguard for the future, really. And by doing that, we're safeguarding the fisheries, because it's all part of the same ecosystem, and having the healthy habitats means that there's great nursery areas for cod and for queenies and for a lot of these species. So it all interlinks really closely.
The circle of life.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the divers as well, and do you have to work closely with just recreational divers? Is that something that's important to them, what they want to see when they're diving down to the seabeds?
Well, we've got so much important information from divers, and there's organisations like Sea Search that get divers to collect information systematically when they're on their dives, and there's also individual divers who are very enthusiastic and take lots of photographs and have actually identified a lot of the important habitats that we know about in the coastal waters because of all the keen diving they do and recording. And so their input is really important to this consultation, and we hope that we'll get a lot of input from divers through this formal consultation. But yeah, through the previous work that we've done with the consulting the community on what's important in the marine environment, they've been really key in identifying what's out there and how important it is, and bringing to the public attention what important marine life we've got. And so I think together with fishermen, who obviously are day to day in touch with what we've got on the seabed and the marine life, divers and other people that collect, people that watch whales or collect information on the seashore and things, that's so important, that kind of citizen science feeding into how we can manage the sea better.
Where would we be in 10 or 20, 30 years' time if there was no protection around the Isle of Man at the moment? I
think there is a risk that we could lose some of these important habitats. We don't know how activities and the pressures on the marine environment are going to change over that time scale. And so we've got a chance here with some of these features, which may have been there for centuries, to look after them and protect them for the future. So I think there's a real opportunity here to safeguard a fishing industry and the sustainability of fishing, but also to protect what we've got in terms of the seabed. And the brilliant thing about the marine environment is that if it's protected, it can do a lot of the regeneration itself. You can do sort of proactive restoration work, but it's likely to just improve on what you've got. So hopefully in 10 or 20 years' time, if we can look after these areas well, then they'll be infinitely richer and just better than they are now. So it's a great opportunity, I think.
Is there a good chance that other nearby countries or if they're not looking after their marine environment, and thinking, just let it crack on, and we're looking after ours, is there a good chance we could get more introducing new species to keep around the Isle of Man?
At the moment, Ramsey Marine Nature Reserve forms part of an OSPAR network of marine protected areas, so there is a big push globally and then more locally in Europe to protect the marine environment. We're using marine protected areas, marine nature reserves and so on. So by protecting the marine environment in the Isle of Man, we're forming part of that, and hopefully that allows important species to recover in various places so that the populations are sustainable and you don't lose species and so on. There are opportunities to maybe do restoration projects, and there are species like the native oyster, which we've lost from Manx waters, that is something that it would be nice to restore in the longer term. But
could you drop a few sort of baby ones off the boats on good ground and hope that they recover that way? No. Well,
with the horse mussels, for example, which we're lucky because we've got those healthy reefs, but in other places they've been doing very proactive programs to try and restore horse mussels, and they have done used all sorts of different methods to try and encourage them to settle and to form the reefs again. So there are all sorts of different options that we could look at in the future. But I think the really key thing is that the marine environment, if you protect it, a lot of these habitats will do a lot of the work themselves to regenerate. So,
Dr. Fiona Gell, the Senior Biodiversity Officer of the marine side of DEFRA, talking to me. And before that, Dr. Peter Duncan, the Fisheries Project Officer. And if you want to view the document, you can get a hard copy from the DEFRA headquarters at St John's, and that consultation runs until Thursday the 19th of May. You'll be able to get in there and sort out your scuba diving and your bask and shark interest, won't you?
Oh yeah, go down and see the seals. There's so many lovely animals around the coastal area of the Isle of Man. We're very lucky. It's quite diverse, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's lots of activities, and one thing they're trying to do is encourage everyone to use it. Like I mentioned, the diving, the bask and shark watch people and the dolphins, and there's fishing people inshore. There's people fishing out in the boats quite close to the coast. So, as well as all the protection they're trying to do, they're just putting one or two things forward and doing the right way and going the right way about it by asking actually the public's views on it. So
no, it's very good. Have you ever seen any of the dolphins and the bask and sharks go past the island?
I have. I've been out in fishing boats off Derby Head with a bask and shark about 20 or 30 foot away, and let me tell you, when you're a youngster, that's
scary sight.
Crossing your mind of jumping on the bask and shark's back for a ride round like you see in these films wasn't one of the things that came to mind. And also, years ago when they had the bombing targets off Derby, you'd be out there fishing and there'd be an F-111 aircraft flying over you about 200 feet, 600 mile an hour, just to warn you that they'll be dropping a few bombs on the target. So I think things have changed a little bit since then. But I think it's good for certainly, hopefully, the sustainability of the island's coastal waters.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Kaylee Cool is a young dairy farmer from the south of the island, and I caught up with her on her return from spending a year working on a farm in New Zealand.
Well, growing up on a farm, you always have an interest in it, and if it's in your blood, it's hard to get away from. But we're just saying, in my earlier days, I definitely wanted to be a marine biologist. So in the end, it was a toss-up between rock pools and the land, but yeah. You always get back to your roots, so to speak.
So you chose a course at Harper Adams. Was this to do with dairy industry or something different?
I chose agri-food and marketing with business studies. Just that I always had an interest in engaging with people and just seeing how the wider industries sell things.
Marketing is one of the things at the moment in the forefront of agriculture. People are trying to diversify, sell their own produce, etc. Did you find on the placements that you went on, this was something that the farmers were doing more so in the UK now, trying to sell their own things?
In my placement year, we all had a year out, and I went down to Exeter to work in a large farm shop down there. It had about 4,000 customers going through it weekly. So it was quite a challenge and nothing that we'd really have over here anyway. So it was good to see that insight and how really people care about where their food is produced and comes from. So it's good to see that side and good to see that people are still connected and interested in that kind of aspect, really.
Would the food in that shop mostly come from the area, or would it free from all around the country?
Within reason, yeah, it was all from mostly around Devon, and they also grew it on their own farm as well, and reared the beef in their butchers as well. So that was mostly from their own farm as well, or Devon. So yeah, it was all very local,
Yeah.
and in the restaurants and everything. Yeah, it was really good and a good experience. So.
And then you headed off out to New Zealand after that. Was that to continue the same sort of project or something different?
I worked up in the North Island on a dairy farm there, which was funny. It was probably the first experience I'd had working on a dairy farm outside of home, so it was good education to work for somebody else apart from Dad. They had 240 Holstein Friesians there on quite a high intense system. I stayed there for 5 months, and then I went down to South Island to work on a larger farm. They had 1350 crossbreds down there, and I stayed there for 3 months carving them all, so that was an experience. You learn how to work very hard, and I'd never look at... I remember one time we had 50 a day carving, and that was a real insight of...
Now you're back settled at home working the family business. Recently you've imported new genetics from Denmark. These girls will be settling in well, I imagine?
Yeah, they've worked very well for us. We're pleased with how they've got on. Yeah, we just fancied a little bit something different to keep you interested. You've always got to have something fresh. Yeah, we went for some Danish heifers. So I went over to Denmark. Yeah, we went around all of the farms just on a really whistle-stop tour of the farms and just selecting some heifers there. And we came back with 30.
And was this one of your ideas after coming home to the farm?
Oh, I'd like to claim so. But it's kind of a joint thing, really. We needed some new heifers. We'd had bad luck with the gender in our herd. A lot of bull calves recently, so we needed some fresh input. Yeah, we decided to go for some genetics that would suit our system, some more grazing girls, and just with a bit more medium stature and lots of high fat and protein percentage, really. So those are the ones for us. So we're pleased with them so far, and we'll see how they go, really.
And they'll be calved now, are they? And
yeah, they're all calved. They all calve well. We just put them out. We put all of the cows out now to grass, milking cows, out to grass about a month ago now. Yeah, it's been pretty tough going so far. There's been a lot of rain. Just have to get on by, and they're a bit soft underfoot, but no, they're all doing well at the moment. Yeah.
So the Isle of Man does differ somewhat to New Zealand because everybody seems to want to follow the New Zealand methods, bring them back to Britain. But do you think they would even work here? The climate alone is so much more different.
Yeah, it's just such a different ball game, really. I think New Zealand is such a new country, and just even their farm layouts and setups are just so much more different than our little traditional hedgerows here. So it's just a completely different way of thinking. But it's good to see that from that point of view, I guess, and learn some things in that respect. But you've got to take small things away from it. But I don't think that it would ever work such large scale, especially, I don't know what we'd have done if all of our cows are outside and didn't have any sheds to go into this winter. It would just have been a complete nightmare. So it's horses for causes, and every farm is different, which system suits. So I think we'll stick with this one for now.
But your cows not only look well and do well for you in the milking side of things, you have great success in the show rings locally. And you yourself, you're the champion shorthorn handler this year in the UK.
We show some of our shorthorn cattle at the show. We bought them as we were predominantly black and white about 10 years ago. We started with a small number of shorthorns, just to add a little bit of colour into the herd, really, and just brought them to a few shows, the local ones. And yeah, they've done really well for us. They've kind of grown from that, and they've done really well. One of our cows was the UK champion in the photographic competition, so we were really pleased with that. We had no idea that would happen in our wildest dreams, so that was quite cool. And she is now representing the UK in the world competition, so we'll see how that goes. But that was quite a funny surprise. We'd never thought of that. So who would have thought? Yeah, we have good fun, and it's a really good way of just getting out and meeting people and a good day out with your livestock, even though I really need to train mine a little bit more better. I think they have an extra spirit, shorthorns, because, yeah.
But you've said that. You still won the national handler for the shorthorn breed. Now, that is no mean feat.
Well, it wasn't my calf. I have to have friends in high places. But no, it was good fun. That was in the Three Counties Showground. That one, so we went away. A Manx team went away as well and competed in the Holstein ring, and I went and competed in the other breeds ring. But yeah, they did really well as well. Again, another way of just meeting new people who are interested in the same things and getting ideas of which bulls and genetics they're using as well, and which ones would be suitable for your herd on the way home. So all adds to the experience, really.
That was Kaylee Cool on her return from New Zealand.
Fair old scale compared to the Isle of Man with the amount of cows and sheep out there, though.
Oh, wow, it's just unbelievable. I think compared to our small dairy farms, the traditional methods we have here, I think Kaylee's eyes were certainly open to some of those massive outfits. I don't know how they cope, really.
No, and the nice thing about it is that we seem to get a few people that do head out to New Zealand bit speed, but we do get one or two coming over to the Isle of Man as well, you know, that are very good with the sheep shearing, aren't they? Obviously, they've had plenty of practice over there. I suppose your time in the Isle of Man, when you just getting it sussed and getting good at it, you've run out of sheep.
This is right. No, they do their season in New Zealand, and then they come up and do our season here. And these guys are professionals now. They can earn a lot of money by doing the two seasons. And you know, they do the shows over here in the UK, the Royal Highland, Great Yorkshire, and the competitions. And it's a completely different way for them compared to the New Zealand, you know, sheep sheds, you know, all day in a shed shearing sheep. It's madness, isn't it?
All day, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not tempted you to head out there for a holiday for a month?
Oh, well, I don't know. We have enough work at home to do, but it's nice for a break. We went when we were younger as a family holiday, and it's great to see new methods and different ways of doing things. It's a vast country, and, you know, Britain's trying to follow a lot of the New Zealand methods in outwintering dairy cows. It doesn't quite work here. We've got a completely different climate, and I think, you know, Kaylee discovered that as well. And yeah, it's a mad sized place.
Okay, well, it's good to hear that she's back safe and sound, certainly, and she's not forget them experiences in a hurry. Next week on the programme, you'll hear an interview with Medwin Williams, who was over on the Isle of Man, a guest of the Manx Garden and Conservation Society, and he is an 11-time winner of the Vegetable Awards gold medals at the Chelsea Flower Show in the past, and come over to the island to speak to the audience there at St John's, and he told me about some of his experiences, so be interesting for next week's programme, Kerry.
Oh, definitely. I assume he's grown a few more carrots than we do. They must be very special ones.
Oh, they're special ones, all right. You'll hear about it next week.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
There we are. Marine coastal zoning there with Dr. Peter Duncan and Dr. Fiona Gell from DEFA. Don't forget that proposals, the consultation runs to the 19th of May, and you can get hard copies of that on the DEFA website. And also Kaylee Cool having a pretty good trip by the sound of it, and a wonderful lifetime experience out in New Zealand, Kerry.
Oh yeah, she's brought some great ideas back to hopefully improve their systems on their farm at Balamoda. Whether Dougie will want to embrace them is another story, but it's a family business, and you know, she really enjoyed a trip out there, and what a great experience.
Manx haven't changed. Come on there, I'm not sure that'll go down well. Well, that's it for this week's Countryside. We'll be back next week with more. So from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kerry Kermode.
We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Don't sit in the slow lane. Join the fast lane right now with Shaw's all-new Superfast Plus broadband. Enjoy more bandwidth, amazing speeds and the best value on the island from just £23.95 per month. So don't be left behind. Get a piece of the high-speed action with Superfast Plus broadband from Shaw. For details, visit our stores in Douglas, Ramsey and Port Erin, or click shaw.com. Love being Shaw. Terms and conditions apply.